All right, finally, we have some football, and that comes with a big asterisk. The asterisk being that it is non-padded. Not everyone was there. They ran day one morning, like before you get the syllabus kind of stuff. But you know what? The Patriots were on two separate football fields. Doug Kyed is back here today. I am sitting here looking like Cyrus Jones in the mirror. My face is as burnt as it could be because that's what happens with this Irish skin. Cyrus looks and says, yeah, that looks familiar. And look, we're going to run through everything that happened here today. We're going to share our biggest takeaways. And I just want to start with the most obvious salient point that we could start here. This is not a big practice for evaluations. Everything was somewhere between fine lowercase f to fine uppercase f. But we're going to do our best to live this episode outside of that range because it's a very boring range and no one wants to hear about, it was basic day one stuff. Like this was, I don't know, if I was comparing to someone to learn how to drive, because we're going to talk about a 21-year-old, Drake Maye, learning to play quarterback in the NFL. This was like backing out of the driveway. I think he got out of the driveway. Is that fair?
Yeah, this was as basic fundamentals as humanly possible. Like I just got off the field coaching my 6-year-old daughter's softball game, and it was like, the first practice of softball. It literally reminded me of that, of like going station to station, being like, all right, can you hit the X on the wall with the ball, with the softball? And that's like kind of what the quarterbacks are doing, throwing into big nets with, open holes to throw it through. Like it was very basic, but I mean, to add a little bit of juice here, we did get to see potential, first team units, second team units. There was still something to be gleaned from this practice, more so than rookie minicamp, which was pretty similar to this fundamental wise. But you're like, all right, some tryout wide receiver that we'll never see again was playing the slot. So that didn't really mean anything.
Right. And look, if I can write 2,000 words about practice, there's enough meat on the bone for us to go through. So this is not to just pee on the start of my own podcast episode. It's just to say, if you read any serious analysis of this practice or hear us tired, sunburnt, start to take things too seriously, just shut it off. Like this is not the time or place for that. It's Monday, May 20th. They will not put on pads until the summer. Doesn't mean we can't learn anything, but it's not going to be for one practice, which I will just tell you right off the bat. This is how it went. So to take you there to the two fields adjacent to Gillette Stadium, where again, just about 80 out of the 90 players who are on the roster were there, ready to participate, did participate. A couple guys who were missing, Matt Judon, Devon Godchow for what appear to be non-injury reasons, Anthony Jennings, Josh Uche, same boat. Kendrick Bourne was there, Jelani Tavai was there, Cole Strange was there. They were all in street clothes, hanging out, mental reps, as they say. But for the guys who were taking the real reps, they started with the team walkthrough period. So you separate the starting defense from the starting offense. They go on separate fields, very slow paced. You're going through the motions of all these plays after plays after plays. And this is how serious it was at some point. I don't know if they lacked ball carriers. I don't know if they just got bored that fast. But one offensive lineman took off running with the ball. And then a quarterback was off playing a new position. And we can't provide too many details in case these are real trick plays. But that leads into stretching, positional drills, more positional drills, quarterbacks with the receivers. Some of the quarterback stuff we'll get to. But then it goes to special teams. And we're back to positional work. So the first hour basically is just things that are either at half speed or we're all going to be in smaller groups and we're going to do very, very, very basic things. Then Gerard Mayo brings everyone into a big huddle, which we forgot to ask about. Did anyone share what that was like with you afterward?
No, not that I heard of, no.
Okay. After that, you have an 11-on-11 period. 8 reps for Jacoby Brissett, 4 for Bailey Zappi, 3 for Drake Maye. Then a 7-on-7 period. 8 reps Jacoby Brissett, 4 for Bailey Zappi, 4 for Drake Maye, 4 for Joe Milton. Then they go 11-on-11 on split fields again, half speed. Jacoby was with Drake Maye on one side, Bailey Zappi and Joe Milton on the other. I think that was very intentional. But again, nothing competitive. And that's what we're there to learn from is these competitive drills. And then we wrap up with a 2-minute drill in name only. Half speed, KJ Osborne drops a pass. No one really cares. And then sprints. So that's what we saw. That's everything that was there. And Drake Maye did go third in all of the drills and all of the periods behind Jacoby Brissett and Bailey Zappi. But I think the more important number is not that he was third out of 4. It's that he took 7 reps in those team periods to Bailey Zappi's 8. So there's not a huge difference if you would just flip those and said, oh, Drake went second. Well, they're taking about the same number of reps. And he also took more pass attempts. So this is really like a 1 with Jacoby and then a 2A and 2B and take that wherever you want to go from there with everything I just laid out.
Yeah, I thought the quarterback reps, how those were divvied out, was certainly interesting. And it was maybe the biggest surprise for me out of OTA's practice today, because I fully expected Jacoby Brissett to be the QB snap leader, or however you want to call that. But then I did expect Drake Maye to be the second quarterback in the line of quarterbacks. And Bailey Zappi being the number 2 did surprise me a little bit. But I mean, I guess this is their way of messaging to the team, like, you have to earn your role. You know, Bailey Zappi was the backup last year, so he shouldn't necessarily like lose that to a rookie right away. But I don't know. I almost still probably would have put Drake Maye as the second guy, just because it's like, we're being realistic here, right? Like football players, I understand that everything has to be fair and you have to earn your role and you have to compete in all these things, but like, let's be realistic. Drake Maye was the 3rd overall pick. And Bailey Zappi was so bad last year for the Patriots that he couldn't pass Mac Jones on the depth chart until like November or December. So yeah, everything does have to be earned, but I also think that these guys are smart enough to know that when things matter, Drake Maye is going to be there competing for the starting role, and Bailey Zappi, given everything that's transpired over the last 2 years, probably is not. And I'm also curious now to see when that shifts, because obviously they want Drake Maye to earn it, but they're doing so little right now that there's nothing really that Drake Maye can do to earn it other than take all those solo reps like Gerard Mayo was talking about, watching film in the Patriots quarterback room. So I don't know. That's my big question here from now. It's like, all right, so where does this change? Like, do you wait for Bailey Zappi to play poorly and then wait for Drake Maye and then move Drake Maye up? Or like, what happens to get Drake Maye back above Bailey Zappi from this point?
So my only other thought on the ordering of the quarterbacks thing, which I don't know if I'm just getting defensive for when I expect the onslaught of TV and radio discussions of, oh my God, why is Drake Maye 3rd? Like, Jane Daniels is a starter.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams is good enough to be the starter in Chicago. Why is Drake Maye 3rd? Again, it's May 16th. And you could use that to put out a lot of fires of conversations. And I don't want to do that. I want to have real talk here. But my thought was, and I think I said this to you, if we zoom out and take the quarterback reps and view them as instead, holistically as reps for the entire offense, if the quarterback screws things up, as a rookie tends to do on day one of the job, that spoils the rep for the rest of the offense, meaning he scrambles prematurely or he throws the ball away. That does nobody any good. So at least we'll have a guy, again, going back to the driving analogy. Right. If you're teaching Drake Maye stick shift, let's at least have a dude who knows like what gear to put it in to get out of the driveway and has done it before in an NFL offense. Granted, Bailey Zappi's going to get into a lot of fender benders, if not full on crashes, before you just hand the keys to the kid and say, let's see if you can do it. That was my only other thought. I don't know if you found that persuasive then or now.
It's somewhat persuasive. I still probably would have had Drake maybe be the second guy, but like that's almost selfishly for me, because I would have liked to have we did see, like you said, Drake Maye as much as Bailey Zappi. I mean, I will also say that like you would hope that a rookie quarterback could do those basic things that we were talking about and seeing well enough that you don't have to worry about that. And hopefully that's not cause for concern for Drake Maye, but I mean, the fact that he did take as many reps as he did shows that that's not necessarily the case. But no, I don't know. Personally, I just thought it was interesting. And like, if you take the first team offense, first team defense, everything as a whole anyway, like you're seeing weird guys slotted in there. Like Tyquan Thornton was lined up with the first team offense. So he would be like 6th or 7th on my wide receiver depth chart right now. The top cornerbacks were kind of all over the place. So they were kind of mixing and matching guys. And it didn't necessarily look like a definitive depth chart, but there were other roles, there were other positions that it did certainly look like, all right, if we had to play a game right now, these would be our guys. And the offensive line was probably one of those that I saw in particular.
It was. Let's put a bow on Drake Maye first, though, because the last thing that just came to mind when you talk about messaging to the rest of the team is you have to earn it. This is us, showing and telling the kid who we drafted 3rd overall, you are no exception, at least at the start here, is there's messaging through the media, right? They knew we were coming. Right. They sent out the invitation that said, please show up, hang out for 2 hours. This is what we're going to do. And then you're not going to come back for 9 days. It's very possible that those numbers flip tomorrow when they reconvene for practice and Drake Maye is second, where he gets more passing attempts.
I just personally, I know it's May. I know it's May 20th. I know it's the first practice. These guys will all play together. But for me, I want to put Drake Maye out there as much as humanly possible. I want to put Jalen Pollock out there as much as humanly possible. I want to put Javon Baker out there as much as humanly possible, because these are among the most talented players on the roster. And like, they need to get as many reps as possible to see if they can play in week one. And you really do only get so many of these spring practices, whether like 8 or 9 OTA sessions, something like that, 3 mini camp practices, and then you're done for the spring. And then you get started on training camp. So I know it's the first practice, and we'll see how things shake out in 8-9 days, whatever it is, when we get out there for our next OTA session. But personally, I just want to see those guys take as many reps as humanly possible.
Yeah. With Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where right now you can win up to 100 times your money with as few as 4 correct picks with basketball, hockey, and other sports on Prize Picks. And I'll tell you, look, I like Prize Picks for baseball too. The Red Sox just started up. They're playing the Mariners, the A's. I put a little money down and I got a lot more money back. So download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. I did the same. Again, download the app today. Use code CLNS at Prize Picks for a first deposit match up to $100, and you can do the same. Basketball, hockey, and baseball. We got a lot to do until the draft, and you can find it all at Prize Picks. On the quarterbacks too, people love because we put them out there, and you could not debate endlessly, but have a lot of conversations about how useful or useless those numbers are. Jacoby Brissett,
Right.
for example, 9 of 14 out of his 16 reps and 11 on 11s and 7 on 7s. Drake Maye was 6 of 7. Sounds very good. Bailey Zappi, 3 of 5. Not as good. Not also as telling, though. I talk about the waste of a particular rep.
Right.
Bailey Zappi takes off, couldn't find anybody open. Sometimes it's going to be the right play. But in practice, when you know you're not going to get hit, scrambling, typically not a great outcome for the offense. And Joe Milton goes 4-4, which cannot be better. Honing it on Drake Maye, because again, that's what people want to know. That's the person we're trying to learn the most about here, as well as the team over the next few weeks and months. Ripped a nice out route throw to Javon Baker, 2 sit-down routes over the middle, had a curl route on the far side. I think he had a second out route there where you can really tell the arm strength is there, and then just a check down. So safe throws, everything within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. Again, this is the part where it's like, yes, he was 6 of 7. 6 of 7 is very good. Not very telling as far as it goes right now. And, to put that in further context, a lot of the quarterbacks didn't go downfield. And the one who really did was Jacoby Brissett, because he had more reps and he has the most experience.
And what was it? Drake Maye's first throw overall that was like behind Kevin Harris
on a screen. Yeah.
On a screen. So that one was like, all right, get the jitters out. And also,
that's like hitting the mailbox on the way, or just brushing by it on the way down the driveway, going backwards. Like
yes.
Yeah,
exactly. But no, he did settle down, which was good to see, because if everything had got, but I mean, that wasn't necessarily what he was showing at rookie minicamp either. Like, he was pretty accurate on those short balls. So I was like, oh, that seems like kind of an aberration. And unfortunately for the Patriots, it was on that one throw to Kevin Harris.
And you know what, too? Those throws are the ones that he missed at Carolina. People who are
right.
Against Drake Maye were like, he's going to get you fired because he's missing all of the bunnies and the layups. And my point was like, okay, great. He'll swing and miss down the middle every once in a while, but he's going to crush that slider low and away, as Olivia did. We all know at the game today, for a double or a home run. Just the throw that's harder to make that some quarterbacks or hitters just can't make. Anything else as far as their performance? Because the only other thing that comes to mind for me, quarterbacks today, the amount of, I went through all the positional work. Like, the first hour was just stay alone with your position, or maybe throw to the receivers. There was so much footwork stuff, and he didn't look out of place there.
No, absolutely. I thought his footwork was quality. Just as far as quarterbacks go, I mean, like, I feel like we'd be remiss not to talk about Joe Milton's arm strength while we're talking about quarterbacks, because, like, Drake Maye has a strong arm. He had, among those, the 3 quarterbacks that the Patriots could have taken, between him, Jaden Daniels, and JJ McCarthy, like, he had the best arm strength. And Joe Milton's is like on another level, even more so than that, where, like, you understand when you watch Joe Milton why the Patriots would want to take him in the 6th round. Because it's like, if you can harness that at all, if you can figure something out with Joe Milton, then, like, his arm strength is that of a superstar. He could put the ball anywhere that he possibly wanted to on it, like, but he just he's not accurate enough, and he's not, there's other things missing from his game. But like, if Alex Van Pelt and TC McCartney and Ben McAdoo and all those guys can like somehow harness that ability and that arm strength, then there's potentially something special there, enough to take him in the 6th round just to see if he can figure it out.
Yeah, if Joe Milton was, if we were drafting on arm talent alone, Joe Milton goes 1.1 and that's it.
Yeah.
Like even well ahead of Drake Maye. Like there's a gap there that you can see between them, because that's how much of an alien that Joe Milton is. So when people complain about why is Bailey Zappi taking reps away from Drake Maye, why is he taking reps away from Joe Milton, who's his actual competition for that number 3 job? And I would just say patience, right? Because again, we talk about the footwork drills and we know, hey, you didn't look out of place. And that's a good thing. The footwork, I want to see second week of training camp when the pads are on, the drills are live. There's a pass rush there, because at that point, like anybody else, you don't rise to the moment, you fall back under training. And what the Patriots are trying to do is rewire Drake Maye specific to those drills and that footwork, because it wasn't good enough in college. In addition to him missing the bunnies, that's what the detractor said. And so Joe Milton is not, in that same camp. There, he's got to speed up, he's got to play faster. But there's no one I would rather watch play catch on that roster, or maybe in my life, or that I could think of, than Joe Milton just launching footballs the way that he did today. I felt bad for like the training assistants and like the like who actually had to catch the balls from Joe Milton, because these aren't even like scouts who are doing this. These are like staff interns who have to catch these passes, and like their hands are probably burning right now, or broken, really, probably. Yeah. Okay, you mentioned the offensive line 5-6 minutes ago, and I think it's a good time to pivot there, because we talk about there's only so much you can learn, and specifically for an offensive line, right? The pads aren't on. That matters most of all, I think, to them in any position group. But when you look at the lineup, and here was the lineup from left to right for the Patriots, starting offensive line: Chukwuma Okorafor, left tackle. Left guard was Sidney Sal. David Andrews was at center. Nick Leverett was at right guard. And then old pal Mike Onwenu at right tackle. What struck you most about that lineup?
Well, first of all, the most important one is a core 4 at left tackle, because I had heard way back in March that the Patriots considered him a potential starter at left tackle. Drake Maye said it at the NFL annual meeting, and now we're seeing it firsthand. And like, there's the only other option to play left tackle really on the roster is Caden Wallace, other than, you've got Vidarian Lowe in there, you've got Calvin Anderson, Tyrone Wheatley, but none of those guys worked out last year, so you have to try something new this season. So a core 4 was the obvious option, but we're seeing him out there at left tackle, despite the fact that he played 2 total snaps in 6 seasons with the Steelers, and he played like I forgot how many it was. I think it was like almost 4,000 at right tackle, and then some as a 6th offensive lineman at tight end. So like, this guy hasn't played left tackle since college. He played it his last 2 years at Western Michigan. And in talking to him after practice, I think he's just a fairly serious guy, but like, he was even sort of tempering expectations for himself playing left tackle, being like, yeah, it's going to take some time. Like, this is the first time I've actually had to go up against someone at left tackle in like 7 years or whatever it is. And he was saying like, I'm out there going up against Dietrich Weiss, and I have to figure out all the body positioning and the footwork and the handwork and all that stuff, because he's so used to playing one way. Now he has to shift another way. So he's even saying that it's going to take him some time to get back and comfortable at left tackle. But it can't take that long. Like, if he's going to be your week 1 starting left tackle and there's no one else really on the roster who you'd feel comfortable rolling out there, I don't know. I found his answers somewhat interesting. The second most interesting, I think, would be Sidney Sal at left guard. I think that we all expect Cole Strange to be at left guard when he's fully healthy. He's still coming off the knee injury. And I wonder, is Sidney Sal at left guard because they think that their next best guard has to start the season at left guard, or is Sidney Sal at left guard as a placeholder and they feel like their next best guard is Nick Leverett? That's what I kind of would like to know out of that situation.
It's a great question, because this goes a little bit back to why I think they might have given Bailey Zappi a couple more reps again, because this OTAs are about knowing where to be and what to do, to steal a Simmonsism about people playing basketball. And so veterans are going to have the advantage in the practices about knowing where to be and what to do. And Nick Leverett fits that. Bailey Zappi fits that. So if they're trying to experiment and figure out if City Style can play left guard, which again, career college right guard, dabbled at right tackle last summer, was a disaster, and then goes back to right guard. Hey, who knows? Actually plays pretty well in his normal, regular position. I'm surprised that they moved him like that, but it goes to a point that you and I have talked about before. These players now, specifically, or especially the interior offensive linemen, are no longer guaranteed anything because they were drafted by Bill Belichick and or Matt Groh.
Yeah.
This is a new regime, right? They're drafting Layden Robinson in the 4th round, who's just outside of the top 100. He's going to make the roster. That's a right guard. So this might be, hey, City Sal, you're an older player for a second-year guy. You need to sink or swim, and that's going to be at left guard because they know what they have in Nick Leverett. Aside from that, whether Cole Strange comes back or not, I think you need to resolve that position in a way that just hasn't been when he's been there. Part of it's been injury, right? Both seasons here in the NFL for him. He's coming back off of another one. It's just a lot of moving parts. I think that was my takeaway from the offensive line. They're going to cross-train guys. They're going to try them at new positions. Caden Wallace didn't start at left tackle until it was a 3rd team or 4th team offense, which, by the way, we should say Jalen Polk and Javon Baker, 1 catch each on 1 target, only played with those same offenses, 3rd and 4th team. So again, speaking to the veterans led the way, but when your veterans are Darian Lowe, Chukwuma Okorafor, Tyrone Wheatley Jr.,
I will make one quick correction. City Sal primarily played left guard in college.
Oh, okay.
So this is kind of his natural position that he played in college would be left guard rather than right guard. So maybe that plays into it as well. But I actually forgot how old City Sal is. City Sal is going to turn 26 on June 8th, and he was a rookie last season. Chukwuma Okorafor is going to turn 27 in August, and he's been in the NFL since 2018. Like that's wild. First of all, it's wild that Okorafor came out of college so young as a guy who I don't know his full history playing
small
in the
school
NFL. Well, he played at Western Michigan, but like I'm not sure in high school necessarily like when he started playing football because he was born in Nigeria. He speaks with an accent, so he was probably later to the sport than most people. But like there is still that. My point here ultimately is that like there is still some upside with the Okorafor as well, where he's only 26. Yes, he's been playing right tackle for 6 seasons, but it's like it's not too late in his football life to make a switch to left tackle. And I'm just kind of curious to see how it goes for him.
Yeah, I'm scrolling back through City Sal and wondering where that got in my head that he was playing right guard. And you know what it was? He had just played guard the last 5 years, and that's what I kept him owning when they put him at right tackle. It was just you're a career college guard, not left guard. I'm glad we got that cleaned up though, because we don't want to get anything wrong here ever. Granted that it will happen, and specifically when you watch a lot of the Patriots offense the last 2 years professionally. So let's go to the receivers then, because I think the offensive line is going to be a moving puzzle for quite a while. So there's not as much, again, no pads, day one OTA stuff that we can do a lot of serious analysis there, especially under a new coach. Where we can do some more serious analysis is a group that you mentioned, KJ Osborne and Tyquan Thornton were leading off a lot of periods in drills here today for those receivers. And your leading receiver or target getter, I should say, was Kayshon Boutte, 2 out of 4. Ramondre Stevenson was 3 out of 3. Austin Hooper caught 2 passes out of 3 targets. And Osborne only had 1 out of 3, and he had the lone drop. And yet, of all the stuff that happened on the field, what had my attention most was Juju Smith-Schuster's comments afterward when he was one of 6 players to speak with us. So start wherever you want, either the on-the-field part with this jumbled, again, mess of a depth chart down Kendrick Bourne, of course. I didn't even talk about Pop Douglas or Juju.
I mean, I thought it was kind of bizarre, honestly, that, like you said, like KJ Osborne and Tyquan Thornton were usually the wide receivers leading the way. And then it wasn't Juju Smith-Schuster, and then it wasn't Demario Douglas. I don't know. I never in a million years would I have thought that Tyquan Thornton would have been the first wide receiver on the field in the starting offense. And that's where we were. I'm not sure the exact reason for that. Maybe they think that he's the best fit. Where, like, what specific positions were they playing? Did you take note of that? Was Tyquan in the X or the Z? Do you know?
No, I mean, they were playing a lot of 12. So at that point, like, if you're in a balanced 2x2 set,
right,
it doesn't really matter unless you really want to play the hash marks. But even then, it's only a little extra room. I would imagine that he would have been playing the X because I just don't want him as a strong side blocker if we're running in that direction anyway. But he's a guy that, as we know, doesn't separate all that particularly well. Now he's trying to remake himself, but he's the bottom line is I think we're past the distinction of the X versus Z with him. Like he needs to be a tall, fast receiver and show that.
Yeah, but I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster's comments after practice, he said that at this time last year, he was at 60%. And he missed the first OTAs practice. He was kind of on and off the field, I think, last spring. But he said that he was never at 100% physically all of last season. That he never really rested well enough to get up to 100%. He didn't get there by training camp, and then he's out there every day in practice. Patriots don't really take days off for their veteran players, so he's out there every day during the season as well, and he never got up to 100%. This offseason, he said that all he did was rest. He watched Bridgerton on Netflix, and now he's at 100%. I think he even said that he's never felt better physically. So, the opposite of Chukwuma Okorafor, I feel like Juju Smith-Schuster is kind of setting high expectations for himself this season. When someone asked him, what fans should expect out of him this season, he said, I don't really want to get into specifics, but just watch. He is kind of setting expectations high. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what
he said. The room was stacked.
And he also did say that, but he was saying those same things last year about the Patriots wide receiver room. The Patriots wide receivers were very high on themselves last year. And the three specifically being Juju Smith-Schuster, Kendrick Bourne, and Devontae Parker. What was the specific comment that Mike Giardi made about them stank and stunk? Yeah. Kendrick Bourne took issue with that during training camp. I think he when Mike Giardi asked him a question, he just answered it stink, stunk. Ultimately, Mike Giardi was right about the Patriots wide receiver core last season. They struggled. Demario Douglas was the leading receiver. He's a 6th-round pick. Kendrick Bourne was off to a good season, but got hurt. Juju Smith-Schuster didn't even get 300 yards. Devontae Parker struggled and got cut this offseason. But so now we're going back around this year again of Juju Smith-Schuster being high on the Patriots wide receiver core. But at least this year they do have KJ Osborne. He's a different player. And they also do have Jalen Polk and Kayvon and Javon Baker. But he wasn't even really specifically talking about the young wide receivers because he was asked about the rookies. He said it was too early to tell. So it does still feel like he's talking about himself, Kendrick Bourne, maybe Tyquan Thornton, Demario Douglas, KJ Osborne. I don't know. I mean, in a recent article, say what you will, but PFF said that the Patriots had the NFL's worst wide receiver core, which I don't know. We'll find out in January if that's going to be the case. But at least on paper, there's a case to be made that they, on paper, have among the least talented wide receiver cores in the NFL right
now. There's so much there. First of all, I think you were trying to be critical but fair and cover all your bases, and that was generally the job, right? Bad teams, you need to be fair, and that involves being critical. They stunk. Yes, Mike was right. That's it. 2023 Patriots, you need to know nothing more. Second of all, RIP, retire in peace to Devontae Parker, whose retirement was announced just before we started recording here. Someone who never took about accountability, did get traded to the Eagles, and then said, this is actually...
Was it a trade? I thought it was released.
He was going to be released, and then they traded, and it kind of, you want to take a couple extra footballs to Philly, which saved them a couple of bucks. And now I don't know where the status of those things are, but we're moving on anyway because Devontae Parker is no longer a part of our lives, and he finally managed to separate. It just happened to be from the sport of football itself. That said, your quote about KJ Osborne, he's a different player. That's where we are with this position. And again, I don't want to laugh about the position like I just did as far as the future of it. We can get into part of the analysis here. And the analysis is a combination of what was on the field and what Juju said. If he's 100% and that maintains, which is a huge if that maintains, because it's one thing to rest up and watch Netflix for 4 months and feel good. Of course you're going to feel good. How do you handle the wear and tear that kept him below 100% last season? As I reported after the opener, going his knee is not 100%, and they know. They absolutely knew it the whole time. If it holds up, he's not only someone that can play, because let's just be generous and put him somewhere close to the 2022 form where he has almost 900 yards with the Chiefs and he's playing with Patrick Mahomes. I get that. 500-600 yards does it for this group, right? Yeah. And he's a guy with a little bit more yards after catch ability. Not only is he someone who can just play, like Jacoby Brissett is the caretaker until Drake Maye is ready, in the same way that he could be for Javon Baker. He might be from trade liability, where you're attaching a pick to offload him in his contract, to maybe an asset. And that's a huge thing for this team. That can save a lot more money if they trade him versus outright cut, where I'm getting questions a week ago, 2 weeks ago, even someone making an offhand comment to me today at practice. Why is Juju still here? And the answer is maybe he is 100% and this knee is fixed. I'm not betting on it, but we could talk about KJ Osborne being just a different veteran in a new spot, or maybe it's the rookies and we'll see. Juju might be all false bravado, might be unfounded, but just the possibility being spoken into the universe by him, expert on his own knee, even though he was lying to us publicly about it last year, makes a difference to me, not only just on the field, but as far as what their possible asset treasure chest might be. Again, it's teeny tiny. It's like a coin that it could be at the deadline for a team that's rebuilding. That's important.
I'll also say this about Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, Patriots fans are very, like, they hate themselves from Juju Smith-Schuster. And, like, to some degree, I can understand the animosity there. Like, the Patriots gave him a lot of money. It was a 3-year, $33 million deal. Beyond that, like, the Patriots picked Juju Smith-Schuster over Jacoby Myers. So I understand that they're still sour about that, which they have every right to be. That being said, so the 5 wide receivers who we think with confidence will make the roster: Javon Baker, Jalen Polk, Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas, and KJ Osborne. So then there's that 6th spot that we'll probably talk about all summer that comes down to Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyquan Thornton, Jalen Reagor. Like, those are the big 3. Then you can throw in Kayshon Boutte.
Where are all the big threes in the NBA in history just going? We just got lumped in with Tyquan Thornton, Juju Smith-Schuster, Jalen Reagor. Like, somewhere Larry Bird's just scoffing. Yeah, sorry, go
on. I mean, so then, like I said, you could throw in Kawan Baker if you want to, Gigi Luther, Kayshon Boutte as well.
I don't want to. I don't.
But the player out of those, 6 guys, once again, I'll repeat them again, like Kawan Baker, Kayshon Boutte, TJ Luther, Jalen Reagor, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Tyquan Thornton. The one with the most upside is still Juju Smith-Schuster, because at least you've seen him get 900 yards in a season. You've seen him get 1,400 yards in a season. And the 900-yard season with the Chiefs was 2 years ago. So, like, if he is 100%, then that productivity, that performance is still possible within Juju Smith-Schuster. I don't really think that it's possible for the other 5 wide receivers in that list to have a 900-yard season, to have a 14-yard season, to ever have a 900 or 1,400-yard season. So Juju Smith-Schuster, among that group, even though Patriots fans have a lot of animosity towards him, still the guy with the highest ceiling in that group, beyond that group competing for the 6 wide receiver spot.
And also a non-zero chance he has to sit out the second day of minicamp because, oh no, my knee is still.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, he doesn't have the lowest floor, but, like, obviously we saw the floor last year and it was ugly. That being said, there was 2 players on that list of 6 wide receivers who had an even lower floor last season.
Okay, so the draft is behind us, but that means the best is still ahead of us. I'm talking playoff games, Celtics, Bruins, and I'll be there covering the Celtics for the Herald. We lost our guy, Steve Hewitt, which brings me to my real point. You want to come with? Because you can find Celtics playoff tickets, lowest price guaranteed at Game Time, an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets easier and faster than ever. Prices on Game Time actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. You can find killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, including those pesky fees, views from your seat, and always, always, always the lowest price guarantee at Game Time, which takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. And honestly, I've used Game Time for other games as well. I'm a couple T stops away from the Sox. If I want to go to a home game, check out on Game Time, wait outside the gates. It starts, prices go down, boom, I'm in the park 5 minutes later with the lowest price guaranteed. So you can do this with the Celtics coming up in the second round. We all know they're going to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then hopefully the Finals. And you can be there right with them. Last minute ticket deals, flash deals, zone deals, all again, lowest price guarantee, even event cancellation protection, job loss protection, all at Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets or MLB tickets, all with the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app today. Create a free account and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, the account is free. Download Game Time, create an account, and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. That's Game Time today. Last minute tickets tomorrow, and the lowest price guaranteed. Last thing in the offense, let me ask you this. Do you feel like you already know the system after one practice, one OTA practice that Alex Van Pelt wants to run?
Yeah, I think that you can get a pretty good sense of it. You know, a lot of outside zone, play action. I mean, I think that they're showing a lot of what they want to do because they have to install this thing quickly right now.
I could not agree more. And I think it is the greatest thing for this offense that not only are you going into camp, spring, not even camp, not even mini camp, not training camp, OTAs, knowing your identity, knowing how the players are going to fit in there. This is what we're going to be about. And this is what we're going to do week in and win out, because this is not a team equipped with talent anymore all across the board where we can play we're a game plan offense. And Gerard's going to say that. But like this offense, drill outside zone after outside zone after outside zone. The quarterbacks then drilled with these fake handoffs where they would hand off to no one, spin around, and bootleg. Like this offense complements itself after one day in a way that I feel very confident. Not only is it a guy who I can look at his resume and, Alex Van Pelt's been around for like 30 years. Right. A little bit over time in NFL Europe. That was a long time ago. Bills, Bucks, Bengals, Browns, all these different teams. I saw it. I saw the vertical passing game. Even if they're not getting completed, it makes sense in a way. It fits that we just haven't seen with this offense now in 3 years with the Patriots. And it gave me not a lot of confidence that it will necessarily succeed, but the players will know the plans and in a time dedicated to know where to be and what to do. That's not going to be an issue in a way that we haven't seen the last couple of years. So whether it's Jacoby Brissett or Drake Maye at the controls, I don't know. But I love the fact that even on a day for just early down work, you can see the stretch level concepts on the sideline. You can see the deep play action shots. You can see some of the 12 personnel stuff, the outside zone. Like it all makes sense. And I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think it also, for players who have struggled in this offense, and Juju Smith-Schuster last year, Tyquan Thornton for 2 years, like it gives them maybe a little glimmer of hope that things could be different this season with a new system, with things being defined in late May.
Yeah, which sounds like the antithesis of anything you would ever want to hear for 20 years as a Patriots fan. Like, we know what they're going to do. Bill is going to spring all of these curveballs on them, plan B and, game plan wrinkles and yada, yada, yada. Like, again, they're not going to run the exact same plays over and over again. But this is a do what we do type of offense, and I think it can absolutely work. I mean, they had 5 different quarterbacks last year in Cleveland. The offensive line was better. That can't be overlooked. But it's just there's a formula here and an understanding that, Alex Van Pelt's there. Ben McAdoo's basically your shadow quarterbacks coach. And so he's not involved as he was at times when people were upset with him with the Giants and the Panthers last year. And I think it's just all a really, really good idea. All right. Let's talk some defense, shall we? Because after Juju Smith-Schuster, the players of note that we heard from today after practice, Keion White, Marcus Jones, Christian Barmore, who upgraded his he didn't even say, he just said fishing stuff after his giant contract, largest contract ever, second to Tom Brady. I don't watch in a house and a car. Already got a mom, a house. It's very good. Just a new rod and reel, it sounds like. And then Kyle Duggar. I know you didn't spend a ton of time around them. Duggar had the only pass breakup today. No interceptions, no forced fumbles. But again, either post-practice or what we saw on the field, what stuck out to you defensively?
I mean, I feel like we didn't see a ton of the cornerbacks that we expect to play a lot this season out there on the field. I felt like every time I was paying specific attention to the defense, you were seeing guys like Marco Wilson out there, Alex Austin, Marcellus Dial was out there. I actually thought that Marcellus Dial had some good coverage on one incompletion by, I think it was Bailey Zappi, might have been Jacoby Brissett. I have to go back through my notes. So Marcellus Dial was someone who made a good early impression. for me. That was the only defensive draft pick that the Patriots made. But I mean, there's also just so many players on defense missing right now. Like the Patriots were down their top 3 outside linebackers with Matthew Judon, Anthony Jennings, and Josh Uche all not out there. No Devon Godshaw, who's obviously a cog in the middle of the defense. But no, I mean, I think that one thing that stood out to me as well on defense, just going through the line, Marte Mapu was like very heavily involved, and he was playing a lot of different positions again. And I don't know. I think there's part of me that might want to see Marte Mapu like locked down in one position this summer or spring, just to see like, all right, you're going to be a third safety, so do one thing really well. But I also think the Patriots drafted him because of his versatility, his ability to play linebacker, his ability to play safety. But I mean, we saw him one snap lining up. I think it was next to Juwan Bentley at linebacker, someone on another snap playing deep safety. So it really does seem like they're going to be moving him around quite a bit again on defense this year.
Yeah, and it's hard to discern sometimes, right? Whether he's just playing one of those safety roles where they're going to rotate guys into the box. Like we see Kyle Duggar sometimes just hunker down second level. And then other times he's back as a single high free safety. The only trepidation it gives me is I trust Kyle Duggar a lot more, even as a box safety, to play that single high role than I do Marte Mapu. And it's not just because he took a couple false steps when they're playing quarters and they're at Miami and Tyreek Hill goes by him in a way that you can only just not allow Tyreek Hill to go by you by stepping forward. It's he's 6'3" and 230 pounds, man. And that's listed. So maybe he's only 6'1" and 225. Still not a guy I want at the third level of the defense unless it's in a too high shell. And we did see some more too high shell, which is going to be a scheme question I don't think they're going to answer quite yet. And they are making some twists, which happens every year, right? But with the system, and I want to get to that in a second, but that's more up front. Like they're going to have to protect themselves in a way with that lack of a traditional safety. And Jalen Hawkins might be waving across the room being like, oh no, hey, it's me. Not yet. Like you're right. It's clearly Duggar. It's clearly Peppers. It's clearly Mapu. Mapu bouncing around is interesting to me, but it's not something I want to see him do a whole lot. I think he's just so much better as a second level player, whether he is as a rotational box safety or full-time linebacker, that I want him back there. I'm surprised he didn't go Christian Gonzalez though, because we finally saw him and he blanketed a deep ball down the sideline that was incomplete. He started opposite Jonathan Jones in the last quote unquote 2-minute drill that didn't really go anywhere and didn't mean anything. And the only reason that meant something to me as far as I don't know, the symbolism of it is that like that was the group they're going to trot out when things matter. If they had to play a game tomorrow, those are the guys, and he was there on the outside. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Good to see Christian Gonzalez out there. We weren't really sure. I mean, the injury happened so early last season that I think we all kind of assumed that him and Marcus Jones would be 100%. And they were. Marcus Jones said after practice that he's feeling 100%. I have a lot of confidence in Christian Gonzalez. I have a lot of confidence in Jonathan Jones. That third cornerback spot, I know that it's probably going to be Marcus Jones, and everyone in the organization that I ever speak to is high on Marcus Jones, likes the pick, likes the player, thinks he'll be good. We just haven't really seen that yet on full display over the course of like a training camp or a summer or an off season or even a season. And I'm just really curious still to see where he settles on this team because we've seen him play so much outside in these practices. And I still just don't love that for a 5'8" cornerback. And if he plays in the slot, then that would force Jonathan Jones to continue playing outside, which is fine, but still probably not his strength as a player.
Yeah, that's yeah. Go back to critical and fair for the receivers. 5'8" dude not built to play on the outside is absolutely right. And I asked him too after practice, like, hey, do you understand that your role will be nickel or will it bounce around? And he just kind of did like the dance around typical Patriots answer under Belichick. Something Keon White did not do, as relayed to me by Andy Hart after practice, friend of the pod, WEI's Andy Hart, that he was like, yeah, what's the difference? Bill's not MFing us after every single play. And Bill's my guy, but it's very different when he's not cussing you out after every single play. And so, some guys are opening up. We heard from Juju tell us walking away, the vibes are much better. Marcus Jones, though, is still playing tight-lipped. He might not actually know because, I mentioned Jonathan Jones. I didn't include this in my write-up, but he was playing safety for a stretch of the second to last 11-on-11 periods and back there in a too high shell. So It could be just we're going to experiment, or what you're doing in this system, Jonathan Jones. But I think there are some moving parts there where they might like to have Marcus Jones there at nickel, but if they just don't feel totally secure about him or Jonathan Jones on the outside, maybe they have to bump someone outside, and it is Marcus Jones. Because again, if this could be a series of dominoes. If Marte Mapu is not suited to be a safety full time, as far as single high, you can't trust him there. That pulls Jonathan Jones back from the outside spot, moves Marcus Jones from nickel over to outside, and then you're filling that nickel spot with who knows, beats me. But I think these are all the things that they're just trying to weigh.
Yeah, and I mean, I do think there's some players on this roster who've got some upside at cornerback. Like Marco Wilson has started in the NFL. Alex Austin looked good last year. Isaiah Bolden looked pretty good last summer. So there are some guys, there are some dudes at cornerback, but there's not a lot of certainty at that position right now. And in your comment about Keon White saying that Bill isn't mother effing these guys after every play, I do actually wonder, I was thinking about this today, like who is going to be that guy who's hard on the team when they keep playing shitty during a random training camp practice and they all have to huddle and someone screams at them? Like, is that going to be Gerard Mayo? Is that going to be David Andrews? Is that going to be Jabril Peppers or Juwan Bentley? Like, I don't know. I'm curious to see if that is going to be Gerard Mayo. If he takes that turn from players coach to being a little bit harder on these guys when they are playing poorly, because like we've seen stretches in practice over the last few years where things are just going very poorly. They have to huddle. Someone has to scream at them and things get cleaned up. And that's probably going to happen again this summer at some point.
God help him. I hope it's not David Andrews. That man has been through a lot. He has had 5 different offensive line coaches in the last 5 years, different offensive coordinators, a lot of crappy players and system around him. The man needs a break. He did just get a contract extension. Maybe that was baked into that, written into a certain clause like, hey, Scott Peters doesn't want to be the bad guy. He just got here. And Scott Peters, who will rip your head off because he can, is just this big, strong, physical, burly man, but just doesn't want to do it verbally. I don't know. This is off the rails.
Andrews is the guy on the roster who probably carries the most clout, though, right? Like 2 times champion, team leader.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
And seven-time captain. He's been a captain longer than I've been on the beat, which blew my mind as I was writing that sentence in some post, probably last week about his extension. But no question has the most clout. And I can't say this for certain, but I would be shocked that didn't factor into their decision of, hey, we'd really like you to come back, help lay the foundation. We'll give you an extra year if you can commit. And he did.
Yeah.
Okay. The thing I teased earlier about this twist, this change to the system, was something that Christian Barmore, who is an interesting interview, not because he's not 25 yet, and he just became the second richest Patriot ever by total value contract behind only Tom Brady. He's just, as you know, it kind of speaks in fragments, and it's a little hurried, and he's a very jovial guy, but sometimes he'll just leave you hanging and you don't know what's going on. So I just asked him, hey, like, what's different about this defense? Coach Covington, you know him well. He was your position coach. Like, tell me what's kind of going on here. And he was like, rushing, the pass rush. Play more 4 down, I think. Like, just everyone get your matchup and you got to win. And on the surface, yeah, every pass rusher wants to rush more, especially when like your old boss, your old position coach takes over, and pass rushing comes largely down to beat the man across from you.
Yeah.
But the idea that they might play more 4 down had my ear the more and more that I thought about it based on their personnel, where you can park Matt Judon opposite Josh Uche, inside Christian Barmore with, again, Devon Gottschauer, Daniel Ekuwale, or Keon White if you want to kick him inside. Teacher Twice can rotate in the edge. Like all these different guys. It makes more sense to play a numbers game versus just kind of a controlled leverage, 2-gap hybrid kind of thing. What am I making too much of this?
No, I think it's interesting. And I think we heard way back at some point that the Patriots defense could be a little bit more aggressive under DeMarcus Covington. I don't know. I personally, that would be more fun for players. It would potentially be more fun to watch because these guys could really pin their ears back and get up to the quarterback. But I think the biggest part of me is saying, like, why mess with a good thing? Because the Patriots defense has been very good for most of Bill Belichick's tenure as a head coach. Like they, even over the last few years, when the team has not performed well, like the defense has still been standing on its own. Like they were a top 10 defense last year, despite being 4-13. So some of these things that players might not love, like, containing and not rushing past a quarterback and making sure the quarterbacks aren't scrambling and not necessarily just like pinning your ears back and trying to sack the quarterback. They're proven to have worked with this current roster, with this team, with these players. So I probably wouldn't change something that was, working pretty well for the Patriots, but I don't know. We'll see. Christian Barmore would probably benefit from it. Josh Uche would certainly benefit from it. Matthew Judon would probably benefit from it. But I'm not sure if the unit and team as a whole would benefit from it, especially if quarterbacks start getting out of the pocket and scrambling and really hurting you.
Yeah, I'm with you. And it's, to put this on myself, hey, Callahan, it's May 20th.
Right.
Christian Barmore is saying we might play 4 down, I think, is not anything to be run with. But again, from within a Patriots context of that being said publicly is interesting. And I think from a roster standpoint, for the first time in a while, makes sense given who you have and the bodies that you could rotate in, because you look at a lot more of the traditional 4-down teams. I don't think that'll be their base run. Like, they've been a hybrid. People always wanted to do the 2 buckets, 2 gapping or 1 gapping. They've been hybrid for a long, long time. You could legitimately run out there with some 1 gapping across the board, but we'll see. Anything else defensively that we haven't touched on?
I don't think so. Certainly nothing. Jelani Tavai, you mentioned it, was out there in street clothes or sweats or whatever. I was told that was because he had some sort of off-season procedure. I don't know exactly what it was. The Patriots obviously don't love to disclose specific injuries or anything like that, but that was, injury-based rather than just him not wanting to be out there.
And in his place, because I think I need to make a rule in this podcast that anytime we can talk about Sione Takitaki, we need to talk about Sione Takitaki, who's wearing number 16, not yet with the Takitaki nameplate on it, but is a little jarring for a linebacker to wear 16 and then a hybrid safety linebacker, now Marte Mapu, wearing 15. Aside from that, though, not the names Takitaki or the numbers, he looked fine next to Juwan Bentley, right at home in a new defense.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that, that was a quality signing. They need more depth at linebacker. And he's a guy who, certain people coming over from the Browns knew, and seems like that's going to be a good fit for him and the team.
Okay. 3 mailbag questions. We'll get you out of here to wrap up day 1 of OTAs. The next OTA, by the way, the OTA practice open to reporters Wednesday, May 29th. So we have a ways to go before we see anything again here. This question is not about Sione Takitaki. It is about, is there a chance they keep 6 wide receivers? Who would you keep barring injury? You inadvertently answered this question, but just to reiterate for Chris, who asked this, with the names that are obvious and off the top, KJ Osborne, Kendrick Bourne, Pop Douglas, Dalen Polk, Javon Baker, Juju Smith-Schuster, or Tyquan Thornton, or Jalen Reagor. And Juju is going to get that head-to-head based on salary alone. If he's 100%, he moves to the head of the line because he is the most talented, or at least has proven to be the most talented among that group.
Yeah, and I guess Kayshon, if you want to have a big 4, Kayshon Boutte would be the 4th one in there. And Patriots fans love them some Kayshon Boutte, so I do feel like they'll be screaming at us if we don't include him in there. I would have Juju be the 6th guy as it stands right now. Like I mentioned, I just think he has the highest upside. Tyquan Thornton is exciting. Like, that speed is exciting, and he's bulked up and done everything right this offseason and everything. So, but it's just, he lacked production as a rookie, despite all the snaps that he had played. Over 50% of snaps and lacked production as a rookie, and didn't even crack the century mark in his 2nd season, despite being healthier, seemed like, for most of it. So I'm going to need to see a lot out of Tyquan Thornton to put him on the Patriots roster this season. And Jalen Reagor, he's a kickoff guy, another one who played a pretty good amount last season and really didn't have a whole lot to show for it statistically. So if you have to put a 6 wide receiver on this roster, Juju, at least what he can do. He can play some spots. If he really is feeling 100%, then it almost feels like it's kind of the obvious answer right now.
Yeah. Speaking of receivers again, Dan, quote, I read one report of the wide receivers not getting open against whatever half-speed offense versus defense was played today. Did you observe this as well? And if so, any concern?
I'm not worrying about that right now until these guys are playing full speed. Like they just can't do it right now during OTAs. So no, I don't have any real major concerns about that, especially since the wide receiver groupings were kind of all over the place. Kendrick Bourne's not out there. Like I'd like to see Polk and Baker more. Like I said, Baker got some separation on that out route that Drake Maye completed to him. But it's just we'll know more by minicamp with the wide receivers than we will after this first practice.
Yeah, look, there were roughly 30 competitive reps in all of practice. Like, yes, it was 2 hours. You had an 11-on-11 period and you had a 7-on-7 period. That's 30 reps split between a first-team offense, a second-team offense, a third-team offense, and a fourth. Very small samples for all of these guys who are doing day one stuff. Think about how easy it would be to continue the car analogy, tailing someone who's just going around the cul-de-sac. Not very hard. Yes, of course, the receivers should want to get open. They're professional receivers. I just, for the amount of live drills that they did, it's not something that I would be concerned with. Not to mention, every single quarterback had a completion percentage above 50%. So, that's also a reflection on the receivers as well as the quarterbacks. Keith, real quick, why is Zappe still here?
You know what? Like, it is interesting because the Patriots cut Nathan Rourke and kept Bailey Zappe. And, like, I do feel like the easier, simpler way to handle that would have been getting rid of Bailey Zappe rather than Nathan Rourke, because then you're just, like, completely starting over at the quarterback position. Like, everyone has to earn everything. There's no ties to any players on the roster. We know that players like Bailey Zappe. We know that players are close to him. Like, it just would have been like a clean slate there. But I also think that it probably would have looked bad to just outright cut him. I don't know. I was talking to Chris Price about this, I think a few weeks ago, just like while we were hanging out at Gillette Stadium. Like, maybe there's a possibility that if like someone's backup quarterback at some point gets hurt, then you could do like a 6th, 7th round swap or something and trade Bailey Zappe just because he has played, he has started, he has won games. Like, maybe someone could talk them into themselves as like Bailey Zappe being their backup. But ultimately, I don't know. I think that there's much more upside in having Jacoby Brissett, Drake Maye, and Joe Milton being your quarterbacks in 2024 rather than keeping Bailey Zappe around.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between keeping around for May, June, and July, and August, and then there is, past October 1st.
Right.
And the short answer is insurance. It's not just against, Drake Maye getting hurt or needing a backup. It's Jacoby Brissett goes down, and you don't want to put Drake Maye behind the offensive line that just got Jacoby Brissett injured. So I don't know if it was Bob Sosi or whoever was on here before him on the podcast, but made a good point of like, that's a somewhat valuable asset, and whether it's via trade because of what you just said, someone goes down, or someone in your own roster, again, God forbid, goes down, and you're not ready to put the future at risk, and they want a stable situation. That's why he's here, to take the hits if necessary. And also, if Joe Milton isn't better than most 6th-round picks who just get cut, like, he will be very exciting. I wouldn't put him on my 53-man roster right now. Anyone who does, you might have. Like, I totally get it and understand. But it's going to be, I think, a while before he proves, hey, I'm better than Bailey Zappe, which is not a huge compliment to Bailey Zappe. It's just there's only so many ways you can do that with minimal snaps, which is what Joe Milton's going to get. And Gerard Mayo told Sports Illustrated today, they plan to have it down to 3 quarterbacks for the summer. And it'll be one of Bailey Zappe or Joe Milton. Joe Milton has to do that in like 3 weeks. And it's hard.
And like, I know that I can foresee Patriots fans being like, how could Bailey Zappe possibly be a trade asset? How could he possibly be better than some of the backup quarterbacks in the NFL? The Chicago Bears backup quarterbacks right now are Tyson Bagent, Austin Reed, and Brett Rippon. Like, that's rough. The Green Bay Packers backups behind Jordan Love are Sean Clifford and Michael Pratt. Like, yes, actually, there are teams where Bailey Zappe would be the best backup quarterback on the roster. So it's not like out of the realm of possibility the Patriots could potentially get something like a pick swap or something. They're not going to get a 4th-round pick or a 5th-round pick for him or anything like that. But like, there are some teams who could actually possibly need someone like Bailey Zappe on the roster behind their starting quarterback.
Those Bears backup quarterbacks sound like the all-state team for lacrosse when you were in high school. Like you're going down the list. There's a Tyson in there, Brett Rippin, is like a small midi or short stick something. I just it's like the whole, I don't know, like these dudes are going to Ivy Leagues or had to settle and go somewhere else.
And I mean, I still remember last year watching the Packers being like, oh, so they're going all in on Jordan Love because like their backup quarterbacks in those joint practices were just such no names, so
John
bad.
Clifford,
and they're doing it again this year with Sean Clifford as the backup and Michael Pratt, a 7th round pick, as being the 3rd string. So yeah. And the Seahawks apparently right now only have 2 quarterbacks on their roster, which I found interesting. It's only Sam Howell and Geno Smith. Kind of weird.
Yeah.
But who cares about the Seahawks?
Well, I don't know. The only person who's been on this podcast who probably cares about them is you.
Patriots are playing them this year, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. All right. He is the people's favorite guest. That is Doug Kyed. We have just wrapped up day 1 of OTAs. I think better than you will hear anyway. A little scattershot, a little list, a little lap. But again, the truth is in the trends. And it's going to be a while before we have trends from OTAs. 9 more practices. Only 4 will be available to the media. Mini camp, which is June 11th, 12th, 13th, and 13th might get lopped off because sometimes that's a reward for players for having a good spring. That's what they're building towards. Mandatory mini camp. The healthiest the team will be this spring, and then we'll go after the summer when we really learn about it. But hey, man, it was fun to burn in the sun with you, and it was fun to watch quote unquote football. And thanks for making some more time.
Well, one of us was smart enough to put on sunscreen before the practice and didn't necessarily burn in the sun too much, but
backing the bus though for the guy who's already sunburned. I appreciate it.
It was fun. Thanks for having me.